Here's a case study. When you work in an environment when the team is moving too slowly, they are not paying attention to the deadline. That's same as playing ping pong with elephants, right? Because you as a project manager, you hit the ball to the requirements person or construction person or engineering or programmer or testers. The ball doesn't come back for a long time. So that's what I mean by playing ping pong with elephants. So here is a case study from somebody. Goes my biggest issue, and very many thanks to the people who provided this case study. My biggest issue is lack of discipline when it comes to deadlines. One question is, does the issue lead to a bad performance appraisal or even to dismissal of the project manager? Or is the issue a question of preference? Because as project managers, our skills include creating schedules, tracking them, and that's also how we make a living. So is the issue here that our job security is in question, or is just a personal preference? Because on the in the second sentence it says, in our organization there are no repercussions for delivering on time, for not delivering on time. So is it okay to be 1 month late, 2 months late, 3 months late, 4 months late? At some point you have to deliver, right? So this is not 100% clear. Okay, and then when you look at in the company, in the organization, there are no repercussions for not delivering on time. He's talking about the culture. That means the organization strategy, the mission, vision, and value statements, as well as the organizational structure, the organizational work processes, and the systems, the training system, the decision-making system, the performance appraisal system, information system, communication system. All of these systems now come into question. And then it says it makes the development of a timeline and schedule a moot point. I personally have been in such environments multiple times, and I understand it. So what this means, the job description for the project managers or the project coordinators are no longer describing what the job is. So that means when HR is recruiting people, when people are being onboarded, when people are being appraised for their performance, they are no longer being evaluated on what they should be. So that means there's a major misalignment in the systems and processes, which usually also means the organizational structure may be filled with the cronies of the leadership and the management people who are not really skilled craftsmen per se. They're not really technicians. They are politicians. They know how to hold on to power. Because in an environment when you do not get satisfaction from a job well done, where the passion and the excellence of doing the right thing rewards the leadership, the management, and the staff, when that's not the case, an entirely different set of swamp symptoms begin to manifest. Gang up, there's nepotism, favoritism, giving work to the people who belong to the gang, and so on. Then the question is, in an organization where there's no real pressure to get it done as stated, so once again, it's not clear what real pressure means. Do we mean 2 months, 6 months, 8 months? That's not clear to me. But in my mind, any organization at some point, you have to deliver something. even though late or even though partial, but it has to be done. Otherwise, the organization cannot last. Even for a nonprofit, even for a government organization. So the question is, how do you keep your team motivated to meet the planned deliverables? So we are talking about personal motivation here in my mind, because as we know, the culture, the leadership, the management, the organizational structure and work processes and performance appraisal systems do not support the team being disciplined in having the integrity to meet the timelines, which they may have agreed to or they may not have. So when you look at the motivation theory, right, how do you satisfy people's needs? People have needs for significance, contribution, friendship or support, and stability and change. So how much or how many of the people's needs can you satisfy? And if you look at the hierarchies, I mean, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it talks about physiological survival, paying the rent, which is very similar to the 7 R's: roof, rice, rags, and so on. And we will see the different types of power as well. We have official power, expert power, social power, and referential power. People want to be like you. So granted, you can do a lot of things to motivate team members by trying to meet their needs. However, you cannot control their promotion. You cannot control the projects they get assigned to. You cannot control who are their teammates and so on. So usually the people who have the most impact in the workplace are the people who have control over how people's needs are met and so on. Okay? So one more big red huge siren should be going off is that anytime you are doing something that is counter-cultural, meaning pervasively people are doing things differently, and if you are given the task to follow a process, to create a template, to run the projects, or to do certain things a certain way, which nobody else is doing, be very careful, because you have just stepped into an organizational change role, an organizational change catalyst. And that is a totally different role from being a project manager. So that's the case study. So what I'm doing here is I'm applying the art of execution. It's a framework that probably will take 3 months to carefully go through and to outline all the principles for people to actually to absorb it properly. So I'm going to cram a lot of different material into a very short amount of time. And know that this is an invitation to engage. This is not a well-polished step-by-step with all the prerequisite understanding and training before I share some concepts with you. So I will share new content very quickly. So feel free to pause and to review and to study. And I have about 50 hours of webinars on Vimeo and YouTube, and 400 pages of notes and probably thousands of slides. They are all available. So how do you motivate timeliness and integrity in meeting project deadlines? So Rumi, while we're talking about root cause analysis here, and the person you have here is Lao Tzu. He's the author of the Tao. Tao is like the universal principles, the gravity. So everything I say here are supposed to be based on principles. That means they should be self-evident, they should be common sense, and they should produce predictable and repeatable results. Okay? Please keep that in mind. And if you don't find them to be reliable principles, perhaps I made a mistake, or perhaps I wasn't clear, or perhaps the principles are misunderstood. So here's an overview. I'm going to cover some of these concepts multiple times. So you will hear the number of times, and then you will see them in the slides. when we actually get there. The organizational change framework, the organizational transformation is a specialty in and of itself. There's a model called the ADKAR: awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. I have a couple of slides coming up talking about it, but you are most welcome to Google and to YouTube ADKAR. Diversity, this comes straight out of duality skills, one of the 4 pillars of the art of execution. If you look at our creation, everything falls on some continuum. How tall is the building? How fast is the person? How thick is the paper? How huge is the table? How bright is the day? How wet is the clothes? How dark is the room? How clean is the carpet? So there's clean, there's dirty, there's tall, there's short, there's fast, there's slow, there's smart, there's not so smart, there's sweet, there's bitter, there's happiness, there's sadness. So all of these dualistic traits, they are on a continuum bounded by 2 extreme endpoints. For example, the fastest fish to the slowest fish on Earth. There will be fish that can swim at different speeds between the fastest fish and the slowest fish, and that continuum would be filled. Same thing with the tallest tree and the shortest tree on Earth. So if you look at all of these symptoms, characteristics of creation, you have the law of diversity. You have the principle of diversity, which is part of creation. Human beings, we are part of creation. So we are under that law. If you look at the career development life cycle, long time ago, people were trying to study how come some people make so much more money than other people. Then they say, well, maybe it's because of ethnic background, sense of humor, the college they went to, EQ, IQ, race, social status. But they really couldn't find any characteristics which transcended cultures and companies and industries and sizes of companies. They only came up with 2 things: height and weight. Tall and skinny people tended to make more money. That was the research they found. But obviously that was meant to be a joke. That research was true. But it's funny. Upon further analysis, somebody came up with the stages model. Stage 1, Stage 2, Stage 3, Stage 4. Stage 1, hands-on apprentice. Stage 2, hands-on expert. Stage 3, group level contributor. Stage 4, organizational level contributor. If I'm a hands-on apprentice, my work impacts myself, probably a few other people, and I'm dependent on somebody who is more experienced to teach me. But if you are the CEO operating at the organizational level, your action, your 8 hours a day can impact 350,000 employees in the company, right? And all of us are at different levels of the stages of the career life cycle development. Even though I have been in corporate America for 35 years, but I have not been in, for example, in the pharmaceutical industry. So if I joined the pharmaceutical industry, I would be a hands-on apprentice, right? So I'll be stage 1 there. But I'll bring with myself process level skills, management skills, leadership skills, execution skills, and in those cases, I probably would be able to perform at the organizational level. So just within my own skill set and across different people, across different groups, across different companies, you can see there's a tremendous amount of diversity. And the reason to share this one now is so that we don't become judgmental, and when we hear somebody say something, or when you hear some principles being presented here, then you will say that is absolutely wrong. And you may very well be right in your particular environment. Believe me, I have seen environments that I never even imagined possible. So That's diversity. Variation. So the ideal situation is I pass on the principles in the four pillars of the art of the execution framework. The four pillars are the leader's edge skills, process ninja skills, cohesive skills, and duality skills. The leader's edge skills tells you the big picture of what to do and what the leader should be in terms of how quickly they can execute with focus and velocity and bring about result. Process ninja skills is after you know what to do based on the leader's edge skills, the holistic analysis. How do you do it? How do you best execute? It's an understanding of the theory of qualities. Every single step should add significant value, and every single step should be error-free. And then the goal is to reduce wait time, to reduce cycle time and defect rate on the process ninja skill perspective. Then you have to actually do it. But now you're dealing with human beings. The company can be functional, can be dysfunctional, can be completely corrupt, can have saboteurs who are working amongst you, who can have a lot of spies, who can have people who are very, very technical, or people who are very marketing oriented. And you need to deal with the different organizations, the groups, and the structures, and the policies, and the culture. The organizational beast or the behemoth takes on a life of its own. So you need to have cohesive skills to execute. In order to execute it, we need to understand variation, because variation is an enemy to quality, right? You almost never hear that somebody is building a skyscraper or a multi-level building and it failed. Why is it so easy to succeed in building a house? It's because those are known things. We know about cement, we know about grading, we know about the the thermodynamics, the strength of materials, and so on. But when you come to human beings, we have a lot of variations. Our leadership skills, our conflict management skills, our technical skills, our ability to deal with opposition differences, our ability to stay calm, our ability to harmonize, our ability to change and openness to learning. All of those things and many of us have dysfunctions, have maybe sicknesses or problems or hang-ups or trauma that we have taken on from the years in the past. So variation really is the enemy to quality, because when we deal with people, we have an infinite possibilities of variation. So we talked about to motivate the team, we must be able to meet their needs, and there are four types of power, and there are 6 different needs, and we will see them on some subsequent slides. So up until now, point 1 through 4 pretty much answers the question of how do you motivate a team to have discipline in meeting timelines in a culture and in an organization where it's okay to be late. Step number 5 is basically says let's have a paradigm shift. Let's forget about, for a moment, motivating teams and all that stuff. Why don't we look at how the water works? Water is agnostic of obstacles and difficulties and fear. It plunges over the cliff. I'm not trying to say we should jump off cliffs, but it is agnostic of fear. It is focused. It is focused on one thing, to pursue gravity. And its goal is just to do that. It does not hold a grudge. It is not vindictive. It doesn't stand and stay in front of a rock and say, rock, I don't like what you did. I don't like the fact that you are here. I don't like your texture. I don't like the consistency of this rock. The water doesn't do any of that. And the water also has no aversion to defilement. It is not egotistical. It is not judgmental. It just executes. So I'm proposing, let's look at this whole situation from the paradigm of obtaining results for the company, obtaining the cross-functional results, because you need to have an engineer and accounting and shipping and construction and coding, quality assurance teams to work together, right? And the goal is to reduce cycle time, reduce wait time. And the question is, what can you do towards that end? When you get a chance, you can do a Google on the theory of constraint. Dr. Goldblatt, he talks about when let's say a production line has 5 workstations, and the faster speed the production line can produce a result is the sum total of all the different workstations. And the slowest workstation becomes the bottleneck in producing results on this production line. And what can you do to reduce the bottleneck? You help the bottleneck to do some of the work of the bottleneck that will reduce both the wait time and the cycle time for that workstation. And here you can say, no, I'm not a product owner, I'm not the architect, I don't do blueprints, I don't do this. But if you stay as a project manager stuck in your own niche, then you become a victim. So I'm not saying you should cross political boundaries and do things that you shouldn't do. But if the environment allows it, you can even print out a hard copy, bring it to them, so you will save them some time to print it out. If they are too busy to go through their inbox, stop emailing them, stop by and talk to them, bring some food, bring hard copies, or there were times I would compose sticky notes so they can just sign their name and they can give it to their boss for a signature. And the boss can see that the sticky notes has the endorsement of the SME, the subject matter expert, and the boss is ready to sign it. So the goal is, let's just get it done. Let's don't argue about, I'm not your secretary, it's not my job. So part of the leader's edge skills is to destroy your conceptual mind. Break the concept of yesterday, today, tomorrow, there's only now. Break the concept of what I should or should not do, and be fluid, flow freely within political boundaries and the territory people impose. And so there are many other leader's edge traits, and we will talk about those when time comes in a future slide. So we are internally driven. Summary number 6, overview. A leader's edge skill is to follow principles. I have shared many principles up until now. The shorter cycle time, the least amount of defect rate. So we are driven by those principles, and we're not driven by anything else. There are many other principles which must be used in conjunction. So because an organization is a beast, is a dangerous, dynamic, horrifying monster at times. So we need to have not only process ninja skills, we need to have leader's edge skills, cohesive skills, and duality skills. So sometimes you may not want to reduce cycle time and wait time because the situation doesn't allow it. Then you know to back off. Amorphous to be formless like the water. And the other thing about the leader edge skills is that it tells you what are the root causes and it gives you a direction about what the solution is. The big picture, the holistic root cause analysis, because the problem may not be in the branches, the problems may be coming from the roots. Process ninja skills, do it as quickly as possible and correctly, efficiency. And the question is, how do you do that? A bunch of principles. Dr. Deming is the father of total quality management. YouTube and Google him, D-E-M-I-N-G. So cohesive skills is very, very important because if you don't have the soft skills, the hard skills, and the knowledge are useless. Anybody can read the project management body of knowledge. Anybody can learn how to do MS project schedule. But how to read the situation, how to size up the team members and the leadership, so you know what to say and what not to say, and so you don't get fired, and you don't take yourself out of play. Management who can assign projects and take away projects and assign team members to your team. they can very easily put you out, take you out of play. You may continue to be working on a project, but then you can be just put on a project that's really impossible to do, or doesn't make any difference whether you finish it or not. And then we will finish these 20 some slides, 24 slides, by using some principles of the art of execution in some real examples. Okay, buyer be aware, be careful, right? So when you as a project manager, I'm not trying to say project managers are dogs, but it's a cute picture. Guy is you can tell the dog is a little bit sleepy, he's working late into the night, he's running hard, his legs are, really in full trot, and he's going up, he's earning his paycheck. But he has a wrong map. They have incomplete and inaccurate map of the landscape. So they are going about it the wrong way. And that's when people say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So here you want to schedule, you want to get estimations, you want to get people's commitment. You don't get any commitment, so you cannot track them. If you cannot track them, you cannot invoke any consequences, and you cannot manage the risks. And then that means you really don't have a job. You're not doing anything that is useful, because as a project manager, you are disconnected. You are talking on your cell phone. In this case, it's a landline phone. But the point is, we can so easily be disconnected with our teammates, with the team, with the company, with the culture. But your job description says to do something which is just not done or is meaningless to do. Of course, you can go ahead, create all kinds of project schedules, so you can say, I did it. It's inaccurate, it's not useful, but you did it, so you don't get fired, you don't get put on probation, you don't get put on PIP, performance improvement plan, or correct, and then you have to come up with a corrective action plan. Say you did that, but the problem is you have just added to NVAs, non-value added activity. So now we have become part of the culture, part of the problem. I'm not trying to say don't do it. I'm trying to say, look at the principle. That is what we are doing. Let's be aware of that. And by the way, performance appraisal in many cases is non-value added, because Peter Drucker says most of the things that we call management is really to interfere with people's work. It's destructive. Peter Drucker, the management guru, said that. And many companies have abolished performance appraisal, because Dr. Deming says your performance, P equals your performance plus your performance times the environment. But the environment or the team is a variable you cannot control. So therefore your performance is always skewed. And that brings in politics, nepotism, all that kissing up, sucking up type of activities, and so on. So here, he's a powerful project manager, muscular experience, has been doing this for a long time, but in certain situations, it loses traction and it falls on its back. So what's the point? The point is, do not embark on transforming your organization, just like you should not go ice skating without ice skate shoes. Don't walk on ice without shoes. You're not going to get too far. So this is kind of an extreme and very austere example, but I'm trying to make a point here, right? It's very important in my mind for you to understand, whether you call it the art of execution or change management, but the art of execution is the only and the first, and probably will be the only ever framework of organizational transformation that can be wielded by one person. You may not be able to drive the bus and make the change in the entire organization, but at least you will have an understanding to know what to do and what not to do, and understanding what is your personal best under those circumstances, given the principles, what's the best the team can do, given everybody's limitations, and what the group and the company can do, what the culture allows. So that allows you to reach your personal best. And Coach John Wooden says success is the peace of mind coming from knowing that you have done the best that you are capable of, and that you have lived each day with two principles: that you added significant value, and you improve your skills significantly. And once a person has done their best, what else can they do, right? So we live in a very finite time span. We have about 400 days to a year, 4,000 days to 10 years, 8,000 days to 20 years, 12,000 days to 30 years, 16,000 days to 40 years. In 40 years, I'll be in my 90s. So it's very finite. Every day is very precious. Live it to the max, because all we ever have is only now, and there's no today, no tomorrow. It's just now. So carpe diem, right? Seize the moment, seize the day. Moving on. And that was like the pitch for personal motivation when it comes to the preciousness of life and the opportunity to be able to go to work. So here we are working in an organization as project managers or as whatever, even teachers, anything. There's always something in the organization that's going against what you want to do. So the gravity is against you, the behemoth. And the art of execution with its four pillars: leader's edge skills, process ninja skills, cohesive skills, and duality skills, they will tell you how to get on top of the behemoth, how to understand it so you are on top of it, rather than having this beast and monster spit fire and stare down at you so you go to the top. Personally, I don't really think so much about motivating the team, because I think that is so much outside of my personal jurisdiction and my circle of control. I tend not to do that. But the end result is I do motivate people. When I'm working with them, if they don't think I'm very stupid, they don't think I'm dumb, they don't think talking to me is a waste of time, they pay some attention to me, they look at me, they say hi, and we actually work together. And if they are friendly, they tell me a few pointers, and I share a few pointers with them. So yes, I do motivate, but not with the desire to motivate them, but just to be friendly and to be a good guy next door. So to answer the question, how to motivate a team, to create momentum, put together a project team, and then remove every single obstacle as quickly as possible. One team that I put together, after much ado, was saying, well, we really can't do anything because we don't have the business requirements, we don't have the blueprints, we don't know what to do. So I jumped to it, and I was visiting the customer 20 plus times a day. And luckily, she was so super, so great, she never complained, and she allowed me to interrupt her continuously throughout the day. And within 3-4 days, I had a draft, and I said, okay, please, let's continue, keep up the momentum. And then you add velocity to it. You have 3, 4, 5 people. Each one of them have got 2, 3 things going. Then they begin to have dependencies on each other. Then you tie in the customer. Then you tie in the C-suite, the CEO. Then everybody is on their best performance at best speed. It's very much like taking a class in the gym, whether it's a dance class or Zumba dance or yoga. Some teachers are very rigorous, and it takes a few sessions with the teacher for people to come up to speed. So momentum and velocity is built over time, and you can do that in any organization. You leverage the customers and the official power, the C-suite, the CIO, the CFO, have them come in and give visibility to the team. Visibility, as we all know, is a double-edged sword. It cuts both ways when you succeed and when you fail. And that puts pressure on the team. Pressure is not coercive. People like to be used. They don't want to be abused. And if you have some pressure you want to share with people, you can use empathy and explain and clarify. Because the quality of any workplace is based on the quality of the conversation that takes place in the workplace, right? And any dependencies they have, always take 2 steps ahead. Okay, Paul, thank you so much for finishing this. And after that, Stella and Johnny will be talking to Steve about what Paul did, and then this and that. So you tie everybody together and you ask for ETAs and get verbal contracts, commitments, and you write it down, 2, 3 steps ahead for everybody. And the schedule is an end-to-end schedule, so you have that to begin with. But remember, when we are so bent, project managers, on building schedules and templates to where it is useless and elaborate, ornate, you spend hours and days come up with all these interdependencies, and you clearly know that the schedule does not add any value. Sure, you have to do some scheduling, but be practical. But they can put you on probation if you don't come up with an elaborate schedule, or if you are a contractor, they can let you go. They can hold a pink slip over your head. So you gotta do what you gotta do. But always be aware of non-value added activity, especially when a project manager is so busy working overtime, working on weekends, and then they have to spend hours and days working on some non-value added activities, so the leadership can be happy and say that yes, their organization is doing the right thing, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I personally don't find that to be too productive. And to be hands-on, this is very important. Leader's edge, LEAD-ER. Leader doer. To be hands-on, this is the beginning of cross-functional excellence in a dysfunctional environment where you can help to get the ink for the blueprint pen, or buy the paper, or deliver test plans, deliver requirements document, print out the configuration, research on the system query language, research on the code, because you are playing ping pong with the elephants. There's plenty of time. So you go into it. It's very important to be hands-on. And you can say, oh, yeah, I'm so busy. Okay, fine. If you're working 12 hours a day, then don't do it. But if you're only working 8 hours a day and you have a lot of wait time, don't go, gossip too much, bad mouth, chit-chat. That's very bad, because you are not adding karma to yourself and you are not increasing your skill set. And that's not healthy for paying the mortgage and to raise your family, your kids. So be hands-on. When I go to work, I'm on it, like there's no tomorrow, and I focus, I move as fast as I can for at least 8 hours for my own sake. Maybe nobody else is doing it. Maybe people have left work at 3 p.m., 4 p.m. On a long weekend, they are gone at 2 p.m. On a Friday, they are gone at 3:30 p.m. That's fine. They live their life. They live their 12,000 days or 40 years. I live my 12,000 days. And when I die, nobody probably that I work with will be there or might even know about it. So I don't really particularly pay too much attention, but I just focus on these guiding principles. And I'm suggesting that's part of the leader's edge personality traits, where you can unhinge from the physical reality and do what needs to be done. That's asked for the project, even if the culture and the team members don't agree to it. You can still do your share. Don't be obnoxious, don't be pushy, be demanding within reason, and set people up to succeed and not to fail. So in a very dysfunctional environment, you can only do proper planning and risk management with the team's involvement when that has to be done, and the leadership, the C-suite, is backing it. For example, I was brought into this highly dysfunctional company, and I was working on an enterprise level mission critical project called ICD-10. And on that project, I was able to get some traction and leverage. Even then, having a detailed, elaborate, comprehensive, interdependency all tied up schedule was meaningless, because it had no predictive power, it had no driving power, it had no tracking power. It was a waste of time. But anyways, it is what it is. So let's quickly review organizational change management. Awareness, vertical communication. Why is this important? Because engineering, finance, shipping, testing, development, they all report up to different directors or different VPs. And so therefore these functional teams or cross-functional teams are peers. And what do peers do? Peers fight with each other. They gotta go up to the parent usually to say, okay, kids, stop fighting. Let's do it this way. That's why you need the people when all these VPs, directors, you gotta go up to somebody they all report to. Because that person can say, I would like all of you to do this. Otherwise, one team may be doing process improvement and the other team is busy doing something else. And you will never succeed because for the product to go out the door, it has to go through all the different functional departments. And that's why there are different departments. But because of the differentiation, specialization after Industrial Revolution, we need to have strong integration. But just because you have a project coordinator, project manager, program manager on the scene, but we have no official power. At best, we can go complain and say, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, but that's very negative. The proper way is for the people managers to do what they should do, manage, prioritize, hold people accountable, give people the amount of workload that they can carry and meaningfully finish, and be sincere in learning and doing the work. Focus on the work processes. Awareness, so people have emotions, you could give people a chance to have emotional reactions. Oh yeah, I used to work that way, the good old days. It worked that way all these years, how come we have to do this now? So also organizational transformation is based on individual transformation. So there's hope, right? If you want to motivate your team, you can first of all motivate yourself and begin to reduce wait time and cycle time by filling in the gaps between the workstations and learn as much as you can about each workstation. So on smaller projects, maybe you can even do it by yourself rather than having to go to 6 people and wait for 10 weeks. And then, so that means first of all, you have to transform yourself. Then you can transform, I don't really think about transforming people or motivate people because I don't want to manipulate them. I don't want to, but if they are friendly with me, they are open, we are joking, then I try to share a few tips because I may have been around the block a lot more times than they have because of the years of being in corporate America. Awareness, desire, the desire to do it again. 70% of the organizational change initiatives fail. Why? Because there is no clear and visible leadership support. We are on slide 6 of 24, and 45 minutes have passed. Knowledge, overview, and so they need to know what they are doing, why they are doing it, and how to do it. They must have the ability, so we have to stand up experts and have people who own the new movement, and so people can come and ask them questions. That's what I mean by template owners. And reinforcement, right? You can have flavor of the month. So organizational change takes all of these to succeed. Even though we know this, we still fail, and we're going from point A to point B. Point B is where each practitioner, each person in the company has the above points, ADKAR. So now this is one slide out of the duality skills deck. I have this workshop is for at least 5 days a week for 1 week. So duality, we talked about the continuums, the left and the right, and the tall and the short, the fast and the slow. So how can we work in a dysfunctional environment where timeliness is not followed and there's no discipline to keep commitments? How can we attain personal unity in this environment, right? How can we be at ease, relatively speaking? How can we have the freedom to do our best, and how can we persevere and endure the hardships and the rejections, where the people and the team and the management and leadership cannot break your will even if they try? And how can we produce results, right? So we talked about the continuums. So pick on continuums which you can control. So when you use the theory of constraint to reduce bottlenecks, now you are looking at the project very differently, you are looking at the team members very differently, and you are looking at motivation very differently, if I communicated properly. And I know I went really, really fast. And you can focus on other things which you control 100%, right? You can take the stairs every day. You can, depending on what you eat and what you let inside your boundary. You can control all of these things. And basically, as a project manager, this is key. Your paradigm on how to get the best results in the shortest amount of time. That's possible, but it's not about your ego. It's about how can we serve the company and the team members as best as we could, aligning with the fact that no margin, no mission. We have to make money, and if you and I don't produce, we will be let go. If we don't come up with good schedules, and the sunny days will not last forever, the layoffs days do come. And the 7 habits of highly effective people, those are all principles. Be proactive, begin with the end in mind, first things first, think win-win, seek first to understand, synergize and sharpen the saw, emotional bank account, and PBC, production capability. All of those are principles. So study them, go into YouTube and Google Dr. Stephen R. Covey. And the principles of personal best, which I talked about, right? And we really need to remember the diversity, the principle of diversity, where every single point along the continuum is filled, bounded by extreme high and extreme low points. Some people may be very disciplined, some people will be very undisciplined. Don't hold a grudge, don't judge, don't discriminate, don't get angry, don't blame people for you not having a job security. Embrace the principle of diversity, because so you don't get stuck, so you don't become angry, so you don't become vengeful, so you don't become afraid, you don't become judgmental, because all of those things will block your progress and darken your energy and stop your flow and connection with people. So observe different people's different nuances, characteristics, but don't say anything. People are not there for me to point out what's right or wrong with them. People don't want, they know I don't give them their paychecks. Many of them don't really want to hear from me anyways. And for those who invite you to communicate with them and they value your opinion, use feed forward instead of feedback. Can we do this tomorrow? Next time, can we do this? Syntropy versus entropy. I have a couple of hours of videos on syntropy, and I have about 20 hours on the art of execution, different topics of that, of worth of videos and slides that's available. You can email me or text me 310-902-3389. Look up appreciative inquiry. So anyways, no matter how righteous you feel, be respectful, and tell them how you feel very respectfully, so they understand that you believe in the future we can improve. So it's a complete waste of time to debate where people land on the continuum of, let's say, discipline or timeliness. Don't argue over the laws of diversity and predisposition. Each one of us have different predispositions on different topics at different times of the day. And with our spouses, with our coworkers, diversity is a law of creation. Let's just accept them, don't argue against them. So this is part of the duality skills, and I have some hours of videos on those as well, on duality skills as well. So why do 70% of the change initiatives fail? As I said, variation. There are different dimensions: personal, interpersonal, group, project, product, organization, principles and processes. There are many layers in an industry. Company size, 6 personal needs: change, certainty, contribution, significance, support, growth. 7 R's of motivation: dysfunctional traits, unclear boundaries, stages of their career development, skills of effectiveness, personal, interpersonal, managerial, team formation, where the team is, how has the team been together, is the project just being initiated or is it being closed, how much skills does the leadership have when it comes to alignment, organizational stages. Organizations also go through life cycles. So as you can see, there are a lot of different factors, and this is just a very small examples of the variations of the key factors or key components or key variables of an organization. And people perform at different levels, right? You have neophytes to experts, you have subpar group processes, and you have optimal group processes. You have level 5 leadership, and you have neophytic leaders. And then in organizations, how mature is the organization in terms of the systems and the structures? So all of these are very variables, from McDonald's in 100 plus countries to some mom and pop 30 people company. So I talked about the paradigm shift, right? Be like water, where we are not trying to so much impact other people. We're trying to change ourselves to be super efficient and super smart in reducing cycle time, defect rate, and wait time. So here is part of the leader's edge skills. McKinsey 7S: strategy, structure, systems, shared value, style, skills, and staff. All of these together produce the culture, and the culture will give you the results. So I have a 2-hour worth of videos and slides on using leaders edge skills. You compare the results that you currently have with the ideal or with the expectations of the stakeholders. Granted that some stakeholders really don't care. I understand that. It could be the government, it could be the city or whoever. So the results come from the culture and the behaviors. Then you look at your systems and processes, and then you look at their strategy and what their original goals were. You say, why did they design the work processes this way? Why did they design the performance appraisal system this way? And I've spent a couple hours doing that in some case studies. So we need to unhinge from physical reality, go with the principles. I talked about that, so now we are beginning to review some of the concepts, right? Water, don't be limited, and use the principles to create and change the reality around you. This person went into Alaska by himself into the wild is the name of the book, and he died. So we don't want to die. We want to keep our jobs. So be very cautious. Learn. We can get in touch. We can study. I provide all training for free. And I took this slide from a one-day workshop on Leader's Edge. Even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat, right? So this is about physical reality versus principle-centered approach. Gemba, okay, very important. As a project manager, when you are trying to understand the wait time and the cycle time, you need to descend into the work scene, go to where the work actually is taking place, and then look at what they are doing, see if it's error prone, see if they have any systems documentation, do you have technical documentation, do they have the proper skills, do they have the requirements, do they know what they are supposed to do? It is very important. It's the fatal mistake. I know C-suites and leaders and managers in a company for 5-10 years, and they never actually look at the production work processes. That is unbelievable. It's fatal. It's negligent. It's lacking in integrity. With all due respect, it's my humble opinion. What do I know? Okay. So a leader's edge person would have the skills to learn and be open and be willing to work hard up to 75, 80 hours a week for 3 months at a time if it's required. And also, the leader's edge skill says, don't focus on visibility. Don't go for there's a book said, up is not the only way. Up is not the way. Unless the environment really needs to have a strong leader and everything else is working perfectly. If that's not the case, if you are in a dysfunctional environment and people are not committing to their deadlines, go look at what they are doing and go look at why, and see how can you impact and manipulate the systems and the culture, and how can you help those people to move faster by putting pressure on them, by reducing dependencies and blocks, and facilitate cross-functional execution. Because Tom Peters says cross-functional execution is strategy. Right, we're on slide number 14. So here it talks about this. The bamboo trees have ego. Basically, no, it's focused on adding value, focused on growing, which is increasing skills significantly every day. So this is the plug for the leader's edge skills. Timing, patience, focus, and wisdom. So it goes on. Water is very wise because it freezes from the top, so fish and turtles and other aquatic animals don't die in the wintertime when there's ice on top of the lake, and also it keeps it from being too cold at the bottom of the lake. Okay, so now process ninja skills. We're always going from point A, sphere A to sphere B, and each step must add significant value, and each step is error-free. And process skills like requirement skills, like project management skills, are life skills. Communication is a life skill. So to be able to talk to somebody, make sure each word adds significant value. Make sure each step is error-free. Each word that I say is error-free rather than inviting a confrontation, right? So these are very useful process skills to use in life. And I talked about theory of constraint. So we have 2 more minutes left. And this is a link to the 14 points. I will make the slides available. Rounding up our skills, you can pause and read the text. So project managers, we are very enthusiastic to make a difference. And how do we meet the needs of the people? How do we merge the two? So unlike that dog running, in the middle of the night using the wrong map, we have the correct map, and then we also use empathy by putting ourselves in the shoes of the team members and the leadership to understand the hardship and the difficulties they all face, because people basically want to do a good job, and if they can, maybe because over time their will was broken by the environment. So we understand the principles of sowing and reaping, and hopefully up until now you have heard of something that you didn't know previously, and I'm willing to bet that's the case. Not being arrogant, because a lot of this is original work. It took a long time for me to compile the principles and the 4 pillars for the art of execution. So here are some quick examples. UAT, user acceptance testing. Something went wrong, and rather than waiting, I helped the UAT team to speak with the programmer and the customer. And here's an example of, we had problem with the software, and we turned over the code to the customer, and there were problems. And just so happened, I was standing in front of the programmer's desk the previous week. I thought I spotted a problem in the code, but I didn't say anything because he was the programmer. And I went back and I looked at it and I changed the code and it worked, and I sent it to him in this email here. So I was able to reduce cycle time and wait time, and the quality assurance people, they need to write queries against records in the databases. Sometimes they have difficulties. So I had acquired enough understanding of the database structures and the tables and the keys and the fields. In some cases, I was able to write simple queries for the quality assurance people, and at least I was able to explain the concepts and what they should do in writing their own SQL, system query language. Process ninja skills is one of the 4 pillars. Understanding how to come up with processes quickly, which are efficient and error-free, and be able to kind of do it on the fly. And this allows us to increase velocity and momentum on the project, and that will reduce cycle time and help people to have more discipline. And then it gets to a point where you are working with the businesses, and the businesses may be stuck, so they don't really have job aid, they don't have user's guide. So I'm helping the business to write user's guide. So this is crossing not only functions, but crossing departments, divisions, VPs. And then configuration, right? So we flow ahead, and there's something wrong. They didn't know what the code should be. So I went ahead, I jumped in, and I did it. So I'm not trying to take people's work, and this kind of help is more than welcome in some dysfunctional environments, but maybe heavily punished in some other environment. So it all depends. And I was also on some major project which were delayed for 2.5 years. And they go, well, we don't have the requirements. So I jumped in and I started to write the requirements. And we ended up with 6 user acceptance testing. And then we rolled back from production twice. So it was a very painful experience. Actually, it's a small project, relatively speaking, compared to some of my home banking or mainframe banking projects. But this took 8 months and it was very painful. And I believe in a highly efficient environment with seasoned team members, low turnover, good systems documentation on the technology side, and good business requirements on the business side. This project could be done in 2 to 3 months rather than 8 months. So, anyways, that's the summary. It talks about so far it's an hour and 2 minutes, and this is basically talking about the importance of syntropy. Entropy and syntropy are two major principles that emerged after the Big Bang, after the creation of our universe, the beginning. And I have a video that talks about that, so please feel free to take a look at the video and email me, text me, I will give you the links. And the 3 good P's, planning, preparation, and preventing crisis. The bad P's are procrastination, pretending, paralysis, pressing, proximate, and popular in doing those kind of things. So good luck. Apply the art of execution to your life. I will back you up, and I promise you, you will make all the difference in the world. Or I'll buy you lunch. All right. Keep in touch. Thank you so much. I provide free training. This hour was put together because one person sent one email to me with the words that you saw on the cover page. So that's what it takes. I may not always have the time, but I can always talk with you to learn about your situation. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.